Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is April the 21st, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1441 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar. First, I want to remind everyone about April the 26th, which is this coming Monday. We're going to be having our, is it this Monday? Today is Wednesday. Yes, it is this coming Monday. We're going to be having our Moorishe Sovereign Investment Symposium. If you have had any issues where fiat is concerned, you will want to be here, because this is a place, we're at a point now where we have to continue rising where the money is concerned, the money on this earth is concerned. And if you look back, money was not something that I cared too much to talk about. But we're at a place now where we have to talk about it. We have to talk. Some have been talking about it the whole time because they were, but see, they thought they were talking about money, but they were really talking about fiat. We're talking about real money. We're not talking about fake fiat. And we have to continue rising in that area because of what's going on. And we'll be talking about that today as well. Again, April 26th, 7 p.m. on this same platform right here, we will be having our symposium. Additionally, and that's actually the only announcement that I have. If you will notice, and that's kind of leading into this, if you'll notice, the society, the hybrid, the foreign, and I'm talking about the courts, the corporate, they are now in that mode of trying to put us back to sleep. Let me tell you how. That whole George Floyd piece, where, you know, he's been convicted of murder and blah, 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 you know, and that's he needed to be. It was murder. But that's an attempt to make it so that we feel comfortable thinking that they're governing. They're not the government. They're not the government, period. We are. Not only that, but those ones doing business as policy enforcers, we're the police. So we need not get comfortable thinking, oh, okay, he's been convicted of murder, so we can just chill what we're doing because they're going to do the right thing. It's not even their job to be the police. It's our job because it's our land. It's not even their job. It's not their job to be courts. That's our job. Because it's through the courts that everything is done. It's through the courts that any money goes back and forth. It's through the courts that anything happens. Nothing happens without a court order, a court command. That's why we have our consular courts up and running and active on our land. I'm always glad to see and hear court actions. I don't make it to all of them, but I'm always so glad to see and hear them, that they're going on in all the territories all the time. There's always going to be some more doing court actions. And some of the court actions are formally court actions, and some are court actions where they're speaking court actions, and some are court actions where they're sending court actions. It's constantly, we're governing already. That's why I say don't let anybody tell you you're not governing, because every affidavit that we send it as a court action. That's governing. That's why everyone in the fake quote-unquote Congress were attorneys and lawyers, because they already know nothing happens without the court speaking, the judges speaking, the justices speaking. So they can be in a grocery store and they would be doing a court action and nobody realized that, oh, that was a court action. They just exercised jurisdiction over me by telling me to wear a mask, etc. No. So that whole thing about, oh, you know, whatever his name is, the subject who did the killing, you know, in that situation, it's not their job to be the police. It's our job to be the police. It's our job to be the courts and justices, and that's what we're going to keep doing. See, if they can slow that down in us and have us comfortably thinking they're going to do the right thing, then they know they can keep violating. But they can't keep violating.
Islam, peace and love. Shade Renee L. always reserved.
Grand Rising Empress. The fact that we're continuing our court actions and that our courts are growing, by the second our courts are growing. How do we know? Because there are Moors on all lands and all territories that are doing court actions, left and right. Because there's a simple process to get them done. Every time we open our mouths, it's a court action, including these calls. That's why we put them on the public record, because they're court actions. And some court actions we do, and we don't put it on the public record by way of YouTube. It goes on the public record at all times, but maybe not necessarily by YouTube. We did that yesterday, or day before yesterday, Islam. So that brings me to our topic today. The courts bring the money. The courts bring the money. I'll say it one more time because it's a spell. The courts bring the money. You can't have money without courts. The heirs cannot have gold-backed sovereign coinage without controlling the courts. And not just controlling them, we actually have to have our own courts that we control. Let me prove to you what I'm saying about you can't have money without. Yes, in the chat, Justice Yezreel, the bench is the bank, period. Let me prove that. Did you know that the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, and any of those, they can't do anything. They can't make a single move without a court action. I'm going to prove that right now. Let me pull up. Let's see. All right. Here we go. Let me just pull this up. Now, this that you're looking at here on the screen, can you see it? I want to be sure you can see it. It should say Department of the Treasury.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is from the Federal Register for, let's see, this is dated May 6, 2020. Rules and regulations, okay, Department of the Treasury. If you will look right here where I'm highlighting, what is that? It says
docket number.
yes, And where do docket numbers come from?
Court. Court.
There it is. There it is. The Department of the Treasury, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, that's, yes, they have this here, which says 12 CFR Part 50, which is their Code of Federal Regulations. They have, you know, under Title 50, 44 USC 15, yes, they have all of those, but they cannot do any of that unless they have a court action done first. Now that's the Department of the Treasury. Look here, Department. This is look right here where it says Federal Reserve System. The whole system has a docket number. Regulations, docket number R-1717. That whole system, and whatever it is that they're doing, they always have a court. You can't have money without court. And that's why now that our courts are active, the money piece is coming forth. It's all by design. Intelligent, divine design. So for those who are saying that consular court is not blah, 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 yeah, it is. Actually, it is. It should be there. We should be here, right here on our land. Because even with the consular venue, any money that's coming forth, even foreigners are going to have to get in alignment with our money. So it has to be done through us and through our court. Now look here, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Every one of them has at least one docket number. And when you look all throughout this document, right here in the middle, where it says regulations.gov, you have to enter a docket number to even know what they're doing. Yes, the definition of court, and this is in the chat. Thank you, Justice C.F. Bay. It says the residence or establishment of a sovereign or similar dignitary. Well, ain't nobody similar because the sovereigns are here. So the court is ours. We must do court. We can't do any financial moves without it. So anybody thinking that they can, you know, jump past the court piece and just start doing stuff with money, no, you can't. You actually have to do court actions first. You have to. When it comes to things like claiming property, that's an exchange. That's a financial commercial transaction, a commercial exchange. You have to have a court action that speaks specifically to that, because all law is specific. And some people say, well, you know, the liens are court actions. They are default judgments. But we got to be careful even with the word default. Because if you squeeze those two together, if you squeeze D and fault together and make it one word, that means there's no fault. Well, if there's no fault, there's no injury. If no injured party, what's the problem? But if you take them apart and you put it as D space fault, then DE becomes a Latin word, a whole word. It becomes a whole word. Then you look that up and see what that means. So we have to be, and we're competent. We're competent when as we're moving into this financial, the reset, because that's really what it is. It's just setting everything back the way it was. Read means do it again. That's all it means. And you have to have court active. So those who are doing commerce, You really need to address specifically everything that's going on with your commerce. And as a suggestion, I would start with any, whatever territory I'm in, I would do a court action on all the fake policy enforcers, the one that was previously doing business as governor and all of that. Anyone who's claiming any authority in the territory, I would do a court action on every last one of them. Every last one of them. And that can be one long court action, or you can take your time and do one or two a week or whatever, but you need to be doing court actions on those ones that's claiming to be you, the government. We've done it here, and we've also done it, and I look back at like twice we did it and included some others each time and changed it up a little bit, but we did it on all those doing business as governor. We did one long lien, one long court action, and one long arrest command for all of them. You all have to govern your territories as well. And you don't have to necessarily do that unless you feel led to do it. The ancestors will lead you according to where they're taking you. And that's not coming from outside of you, that's coming from within you. The ancestors live in us. So whoever it is that if you have to ask, should I do a court action on them, then you should. The answer is yes, do it. So that you don't leave a single stone unturned in your territory. No court, no money. No court, no commerce. No court, then you're subject to someone else's court, because court will be done on the land. Yes, Justice Nael. See, that's what I'm saying. Now, honors, 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 because think about that. See, now, when you do court actions, you're notifying the fakes that you already are on to them. And you already know that their money has to stop moving when you start doing the court actions. They know that at some point you're going to get around to stopping their movement. They already know that earth-wide, that we're putting the brakes on that, on fakery. And that's why, sometimes we get a little blowback, so to speak, from those talking about your courts aren't real and all of this and that and the third, No, they're real. They're real. That's why, folks try to stay out of the way, of these courts. The consular courts, the Moorish American consular courts. Some of them hybrids that really know what's going on, they will not tell you their name and their address, because they already know what happens when they get liens. They will do everything they can to hide their identity. Well, after a while, you're going to actually have to hide under a rock or behind a door somewhere where we can't see you operating on our land. And in reality, that's the point. So those ones that are trying to make it look like, oh, their court, convicted, this hybrid of murder with George Floyd and all of that. Well, their courts those fake corporate courts are getting in alignment because the heirs are here. But that does not mean that they govern us. They don't govern us. We govern us. So we have to do our courts are everything. They're everything. The whole treaty was centered around court actions. Go back and read through it, and you'll see that it's talking about war and peace. Well, you have to have a court action to even go to war. For those that's talking about we're at war, if you haven't done a court action, you're not. If you haven't done a court action saying you're at peace, you're not at peace. Yes. Every one of our ancestors was a justice. Every one of them is a justice. So those, and additionally, those who are talking about finance and commerce, and you are familiar with that body that they were previously, that court that they were previously calling the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. That thing was acting as a court for the money, specifically. That's one of them. And again, all courts are the same. So it's not like they were, you know, the only one. All justices are bankers. So if you're interested in money where this new economy and this new gold-back reset is concerned, you must be a justice. You must be proficient in doing court actions. Yes, in the chat, with regard to the word default. Yep, that is true. It also means not. So like when we say we are in, D and die mean the same thing. Those two, DE and DI as a word or as a prefix mean the same thing. It means not or down from, like you have there in the chat, or away from or off. So yes, our liens are one. The liens need to be in place first too, because you have to, that's a precursor to the actual court action. You have to prove that there's a debt. That's the difference. That's the difference between a lien and a court action. A lien says there's a debt. It proves that there's a debt, a lawful debt. And that's why liens have to have that gold clause in them. You have to prove that there's a lawful debt, and the parties must be properly identified. That's why we do our liens in red and all lowercase letters, and we put the debtor in black. And in capitis dimiutio minima, doing business as, in capitis dimiutio maxima. That's why. And little did we all know previously that every month, when those fakes were sending things like light bills and all of that stuff, they were doing court action. That's a court action. When they send a statement, that means that's the state of a mental. And if you accept that, then you accept their mental state. State is a government word. So when they send a statement, that means they're governing your mental. If you accept that, and the identity of the corpse on the statement, no courts, no money, and that means each and every one of us must be doing court action. Each and every one. That's not something that we can leave up to someone else, because we each have a vast estate of our own to govern. So there it is in the chat, Justice Yajirel. You want to put that out there, Justice, because that's brilliant. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for doing that study.
Yes, that's Black's Law. It's a formal record. It's also the book containing an entry in brief of all the important facts, important acts done in court in the conduct of each case from its inception to its conclusion. That's a docket.
Yes.
Anye.
And then what you put in the chat was thank you so much, a formal record entered in brief of the proceedings in a court of justice. So what we're seeing here on the screen, that means that they went through a court of justice. Well, where is that at? Because it didn't come through our court. So where do they do that at? If it's not our court, it's not a court of justice. Period. That tells you right there that what they're doing is not what it should be. It's fraud. So now it's our turn. And we're going to be, we're going to be this coming Monday this coming Monday at the symposium. We're going to bring out some information, and we've talked about it before, but we only mentioned it briefly. It's now come full circle, and so we need to point it out and then take command of it, and that's what we're going to be doing where all of that is concerned. Again, nothing moves on the land without a court action. Nothing. No products, no money, no commerce, no people. No subjects, no nothing. Nothing moves on this land without a court action. That's why they had to come up with COVID and all of that. Because nothing can move without a court action. And now that our courts are active, that stuff that was moving previously, that stuff has to hold back a minute and let us do, and it's going to hold back permanently once we all have the mind of Christ. The Christ is the Savior. How do you save yourself? The same way anybody else would, by court action. Court actions. I mean, how do you save your economy? By court action. It has to be a court of justice. And when we say court of justice, we mean justice as in the real justice, which is the moors. So if you look throughout all of the records of the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, the Treasury, here it is right here, all of that. The Office of the Comptroller of Currency was nothing but a fake court. That's all it is a fake court. All they did was, that's why you never saw the Office of the Comptroller of Currency. You never saw them. You never knew, like, where's that office? It's just somewhere where they keep doing court action. If something needed to be done, they would do a court action and then put it up there and send it out. Currency is.
How come we don't see your flag on television, Pauline? Why don't we ever see your flag anywhere, Pauline? Why don't we see your flag anywhere, Pauline?
Just a moment. Currency, the definition of currency, see, the one claiming to be the Office of the Comptroller of Currency, the definition of currency is a method,
the economy is coming back just fine without you, you stupid.
Hold on for just a moment. Let me put the animals out. Islam. We love them, but they are who they are. They are who they are. Currency is energy. The Office of the Comptroller. Comptroller is another way of saying controller.
FYI, the economy is just doing fine without you, stupid.
But it had to be an office of, meaning that the real one wasn't there. That's why they say office of this and office of that and department of this and department of that, because that means that the real authority is not there. So they're just holding an office or were holding an office. But we're the real authority, period, of all of that. We can't do we cannot actually not act, but be that. We can't be that unless we're doing court actions that say this is what we're doing, and this is what we're doing, and this is being done. So any of the documents that I send out, they all start with the same thing. And in fact, real quick, let me put that on the screen as well. Just one moment. All of my, here, okay, hopefully you can see this. All of my affidavits start with this right here, where it says, all rise and stand. This is a sovereign, ancient, living, Moroccan, Moorish American Article 3 consular court action. I am sovereign living justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in capitis dimiutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. And then I state wherever the court action is being. In this case, this court action, this sovereign court action is hereby placed on the public record. It's one that I put up on YouTube a couple of days back. So everything that we do is in court action form, and all of our affidavits start just like that. So, yes, in the chat, that is absolutely happening. But see, it's going to amble along until we do what we're doing now, until we manifest fully to fruition that which we are going, that's what the symposium is about. It's continuing the manifestation of all that we are and our status as the creditors to all the nations at earth. That's what all of that is about. Monday is going to be a continuation of that. I still have not decided whether we're going to put that particular meeting on YouTube. I'm still, I'll let the ancestors lead on that like they do everything else and see how it goes. Because as we start moving in this manner, some things are not going to be on the public record like that, where YouTube is concerned. Islam. So, and we know how we're going to move. We know all of that, but a lot of that we're not going to put on the public record because it needs to, we need to make it as smooth a transition as possible. And this is more of the same, more of the transition. And we'll allow the ancestors to do, to lead us in what goes on the public record like that and what does not go on the public record. Islam? Okay. So, yes. Now, one thing we're never going to do is hide. We'll never hide. No, we're not going to hide anything we do. The symposium, just like everything else that we're doing where money is concerned and where our economy, our gold back economy, which is in full force right now, just so that we're aware, it's already activated and in full force. Just one moment. Just one moment. As more is wanting to get into the call. So we're never going to hide anything. We're going to, because everything, you know, we have to have full disclosure on everything that we're doing. The manner that the full disclosure happens will change from one action or activity to another. Some things we'll put on YouTube, other things we won't put it on YouTube, we'll just publish it. And other things we'll publish it. Where it's published will be where it's published, so that we keep things as smooth as possible. But the Moors will always be able to have access to it. Wherever we publish it, it'll be published in a place where the Moors can always look at it. Do we always have to make everything a big, giant, super duper announcement? No, we don't always have to do that. We just have to say it. And that's the same way, if you think about it, we're being taught how to govern. And sometimes when the hybrids would do things, they would not, and we see that today. They're telling the truth. It's just a matter of, do you recognize the truth when you hear it? They're telling, everything about us has been hidden in plain sight. That's a strategy. So even with things that, like the symposium, everyone, it's out there. Everyone knows about it. So the things that we do, no one can say, I didn't know. I didn't know. I did not know that that was what was going on, and it's not fair. And the way we're moving from this point forward is the same way we've been moving, which is there's a strategy to everything. We've been doing things line upon line, peacefully, putting things in place, etc. We're going to continue that. We're going to continue that. We do know that there is a certain energy that comes with resources that we must be mindful of. And that's really all I'm saying is we must be mindful of it. If you'll notice, we put things on the public record like the gold standard and like the 666 trillion. See, the 666 trillion, that was a spell that was put out over the whole earth. But we're here now governing this in this manner because things have to be done in that order. Simply because we're changing so much at once. The whole earth is being changed by the things that we Moors do. And that type of change is not something where you flip the earth upside down all at once and expect everything to be in order. No, you do it line upon line and precept upon precept. Do some now and some a little later, and you move strategically that way. So when we proclaimed the gold standard, some Moors were ready to just, you know, we got gold everywhere. No, wait, hold up, hold it. There's some other things that need to be done. We need to get our courts up and running. Well, some Moors wanted to stop at the gold standard and just have everything be rosy and perfect. But that's not how government works. It took these hybrids a long time, and they still have not, because they never can fully usurp us. They never can. But they gave it a good old run, didn't they? They did. They gave it a great run. Yes. In the chat, it's given in degrees. And degrees, if you watch even a thermometer, or if you look at the weather, everything eases up. It's not 90 degrees 1 minute and snowing 1 minute later. Even in nature, things are given in degrees. And that's all that's happening now is we've been given some more degrees, and that's, you know, it's a process. Yes, in the chat. We actually do have a magic wand. The right red thumbprint and that right hand and that signature, that autograph. That is the magic wand. Our gavel, our court gavel, that's the magic wand. In fact, just 1 second. In fact, I had to look up the word wand really quickly so I can prove what I know in my spirit about it. The word wand means, it's a noun. It means a slender rod as a musician's baton. That's something that the conductor uses to keep all the music and the rhythm going the right way. He gives direction with his wand. Okay, that's the same thing with a court gavel. A court gavel is our magic wand.
What the fuck, Pauline? Why don't you keep this locked up?
That is how we do what we do with our court actions. In fact, hang on just a second. There's a little bit more to the word wand as well. Let me get what I normally...
Is your stupid ass symposium starting yet, Pauline?
Hang on just
What's the matter, Pauline?
You know, their energy sounds a little bit down, don't they? They don't sound like they used to sound when they came in here. They used to come in here on fleek, on high. Now they coming in a little bit low, energetically. Oops.
The whole earth is...
Little on low. So these gavels, this is our magic wand. Right here. Islam Justice Nael. Islam. So the word magic wand in archery, a slat used as a mark, a 6 foot long and 2 inches wide. So the word wand is listing tools that are used by those who are proficient. And that's what that is. So I cannot stress the importance and the priority. Our courts must be our top priority. Another reason why our courts are going to be our top priority, and they already are, is that we're going to have to be the example for the other nations at earth where courts are concerned. Because they've all been colonized, and just from what I'm seeing, they're ready, but they have not given themselves the authority to have their own courts. So they will get all excited about processes and things that they say set them free, and marching and all of that. But then when it comes to implementing all of the beautiful ideas that come from energy, from freedom energy, they can't implement them because they don't realize that the only way to do something like that is through a court. The only way you can even have a march is a court has to say that you can march in the street. See, people don't even think that a permit is a court action, but it is. So those that are talking about marching and praying, they're not telling you that they had to go to a court and bow to do that. They just say, hey, everybody show up. We're going to have a march. And then on the background, in the background, they making sure that that they go to the quote unquote king and get a permit to do that. They're never going to show the people that they say, we're going to have a 1,000,000-man march. And I just pulled that out the air. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. Well, in order for 1,000,000 men to show up, somebody somewhere had to go to a court somewhere and say, can we march in the street? Without being molested and violated and beat down. See, they're not going to tell you that instead of marching, you need to be doing court action. Because that's really what they should be telling you. Those that we've heard them called, you know, the leader guys, those ones. They need to be telling you, get out the street marching and get studying and start doing court action on these people that we're marching against. Because, see, if you gather for a march that is sanctioned by fakes, little do you know, you're consenting to their authority again. That's why they don't tell you that they had to go and get a permit from them, the fakes. A permit is a court action. So when they say, hey, everybody, let's go marching, let's do this, let's do that, all they're doing is getting your consent to still be under those that's claiming the streets that don't belong to them. But when the Moors get together and we say, okay, we're going to go and we're going to do this. Well, that's a court action just by us saying it. We don't need their permission. We don't need their permit. We don't need, and see, this is, because see, we go in here too. When it comes to building the temple, which is all that we do, we don't need their permission and their permits to do that either, to change the structures on our land. I was thinking in the past, you know, I've pointed out and shown the Moors who came to the territory. I've shown them the places where our ancient buildings were covered under by the quote-unquote mud floods and all of that. I've shown them those places where we can see the buildings sitting right there. Well, over time, I was just thinking, how do we get it so that we can start unearthing our buildings, because the buildings have things in them that we need. Well, we had to get courts going before we could even do that. Our courts had to be up and running like they are now, and even more so. We need more Moors doing court actions, because again, please don't think that you can do commerce and not do court actions. Because the bigger your industry gets, the bigger it gets, because we are all looking for growth we're not doing anything to stay small. They're going to grow and grow and grow. You're going to need the space and the territory and the buildings and the structures and the equipment and everything. So we're being prepared by doing our court actions to take hold of all that belongs to us. And the hesitancy, that's important, Justice Nael. You put that in the chat. That's important. It's all ours when we're competent to claim it properly. Yes, it's all ours, and that has been actually the biggest gap in the overstanding of the Moors that I've seen. That part right there has gotten so many Moors in a situation they didn't want to be in, because, yes, We know everything belongs to us, but it belongs to us when we're competent to take it. Take it. I've seen more that say, we shouldn't be struggling, we shouldn't be, you're right, we shouldn't be struggling. I agree with the Moors when they say we shouldn't be struggling, no more should be homeless, none should be without food, none should be without this, none should be without that. Okay, I agree with you. But then they want to take up a collection of fiat instead of getting to the root of the problem. You can feed a problem some fiat, but if you're not in charge of the court, it's only going to be a minute or two before somebody comes trying to tax that fiat. Because, see, those fake courts, we already know how to govern, Justice Niall. We're governing right now. Let me tell you how simple government is. Because, see, some people want to make it seem like it's way out there and color it out there somewhere and all of that. It ain't out there. It's in us. The most simple, most powerful government process that we can ever do is when someone attempts to say that we're black or say or govern us on our land, and we say, I'm a Moorish American. I'm an ancient Moroccan. We've been here long before you all got here, so we're not doing that. Well, that in and of itself is, you just governed your whole vast estate with that one. It took a level of competence to even do that. So now what happens when we continue incompetence and we start doing the court actions? Because, you know, we're already doing them, but we're talking about all Moors. Just one second. What happens when all the Moors are doing court action? What happens then? Then all the Moors are governing their own vast estate. No one else has to do it for them. And we're moving back and forth and doing what we need to do as a nation. We can't say we're the government if, when you look on this document that I put up here, and you see that the ones doing business as Federal Reserve they have docket numbers for everything, but we're not doing court action. That doesn't make any sense, does it? No, it doesn't. It does not. Just one second, let me see. I want to pull back up. Well, let me see where it is. There it is. Okay. I want to pull that back up. So, you know, and court actions take 10 minutes, but the study on the court actions and the preparation and the notification is what takes a little bit longer, but not much. And once you get, it's like anything else, once you get a template established, then you just do them. You just do them. And I'm finding that making all of the affidavits officially into court actions I'm seeing immediate changes. Immediate changes. So, you know, don't be, I'll just say this, don't be put back to sleep by thinking them fake courts are being just and, you know, they're doing the right thing and all of that. Don't be put back to sleep by that. The only reason they're doing it, now we know this already, the only reason they're doing it is because our courts are active. And they see they can't keep getting away with that because in just a minute they have to come to our courts. This is true. They know that already. One of them told me that when I was in the POW camp. I told y'all about that. And we knew it. But to hear them say what he said about it's a treaty that says that we can use their Moroccan courts. Well, it doesn't say you can use them. It says you shall use them. You will use them. And see, that's what they're aligning themselves with now. They're getting ready to say, look, if we come, when we come to y'all's courts, y'all gonna have to be fair. No, they haven't been fair, and they've been shooting down blacks, quote unquote blacks. But see, if you think about it, if we thought we were black, that's what happens with blacks. If you know, that's what happens with blacks. I'm just saying, that's what that is. If we don't know who we are, it's a harsh truth. I know it's harsh, but it's the truth nonetheless. And this is the part that some Moors who are still, you know, really in love with the hybrid. When we raise the hybrid from the dead and put them in subject status, they're no longer black either. They're not sovereign like us, but they're no longer under the black code, the Christian black code. Now they're under the Constitution and the treaty and under the Moor. So for those who, you know, if you, we love all hybrids. We love them because we created them. So we had to create an out for them too, a safe haven for them too, which is under the Moors. So we're not being cruel and all of that. Yes, those fake corporate courts are for black persons, not for Moorish heirs. Islam, justice, frank, truth. We're the court. Why would we go to their court? Now, I'll tell you what I have been doing lately. Whenever I do a court action, whether it be on paper or spoken or both, and usually it's all of the above, and then I put my court actions up on YouTube at Like to Jury Day channel. Whenever I do the court action, I send a copy of it to this subject court down the street, the one where when the policy enforcers came and I went to the POW camp, and that court, that one, the subject one, that's called an inferior court. That's what the Constitution was talking about when it mentioned inferior court. Not black courts, but inferior courts. There's a difference. A black court is a corporate court that's attempting to govern the heirs. An inferior court is a court for the citizens that is subject to our sovereign court. So we notify them so that they can put it in their records and enforce it through all of their agents and principals and heirs and assigns. That's where all of that comes in at. That's where the 13 great writs come in at. If anyone who has an inferior court on our land, we notify them when we are doing our court action so that there's no mistaking. They need that handed down to them. Just like the fake Supreme Court used to hand down decisions to the inferior courts. Okay, that's what we're doing. We do that here throughout. And in many cases, I will take hand deliver the document. So, and I was just telling some of the Moors this yesterday, the day before yesterday. Okay, so you remember when I was on February the 8th, 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar and 1442 on our calendar, I went into the POW camp, and on that day, the policy enforcer brought a phone into the cell, and he said, "This is your court." Well, he was telling the truth. So I did a court action on them. Yesterday, or day before yesterday, I took some affidavits down to the policy enforcer station, the same one but it's a subject station. Now, they're subject to the heirs. I took something to the policy enforcer station, which is also where the one that was doing business as mayor was hanging out. That I took one to them, and I also took one to the one that was doing business as head magistrate, and hand delivered them some documents day before yesterday. So, because I know I'm not any name in black, and now they know it too, and they know that we know that we're not any name in black in corporate, you know, that corporate stuff. So all we have to do, again, no courts, no money. Courts, do the courts, and that's where the money comes in at, period. The treaty is a commercial document. That's why it's talking about goods and the delivery of goods, and when the ships are passing, you know, have your flag. That's all commerce. Those are commercial terms. But that's also a court document because it does talk about the courts, knowing that the courts are the pinnacle of commerce. So if you want to do commerce in this new economy, you must be doing court actions. You have to first free yourself from that old system. That can only be done by court action. Free yourself with the court actions first. Then you can worry about commerce and conquering the whole earth, you know. But you can't put the cart before the horse in this case. And you know what, speaking of cart before the horse, that right there, that little metaphor is not really a metaphor. They're saying put the living, breathing thing before the piece of property. A horse is the breathing thing before the cart, which is property. You can't put the property before the breathing, living being. So again, it's all right here in our faces. We have time to do it. Anytime anybody starts talking about, you know, what do they say, making it rain and all of that stuff, just ask them, are you doing court actions? Are you a justice? Because you can't make it rain if a court action hadn't been put in place. Ain't no making it rain. Because you don't have anything to make it rain with. And we don't, you know, yes, in the chat, it has to make sense. It's got to make sense. So that's all we're here doing is making it make sense. Those people that's been passing out all that fiat, they, as fake as they were, they still had to have a court saying something back there in the background. They can't move without it. And by the time they put it on the news, do you know how many court actions have happened before they can put all that crap on the news? Talking about the stock market and, you know, the Federal Reserve is doing QE, quantitative easing, and all that. So do you know how many court actions? And it's fake corporate court actions. Their courts are not valid. The courts are not valid. The subject courts are valid. The subject court venues, COURTS venues, are valid only when they're in alignment with the treaty and the Constitution and subject to the mores. That means that any policy enforcers coming out of those courts are not violating the mores. Therefore, the police that come from our courts are not violating people either, because we're the police too. And we're the postmasters and all of that. We're all of that. And one more can be all of that. Each one of us can be the postmaster and the justice and the police all in one day and in one act and one action. We do it all the time because we don't have 50 or 60 moors in the territory where we can hand our court action off and they go deliver it, and then we want something done, and we don't have that. We have to be the all. Each moor has to be the all, and then we're all the all together. Are there any questions or comments or any other wisdom that you all want to add to that? Yes, Justice Frank, in the chat, we gave them Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution. Yes. We wanted them to know that. And Article 6, that states that all laws made by the state to the contrary of the Constitution and its treaties is notwithstanding. Period. It's not. And all debts entered into. See, we don't have any debt. And that statement in the Constitution right there that talks about debt is telling you that no courts, no money. See, the Constitution talks about, Article 6 is talking about, Article 3 is talking about the court. Article 3 is talking about courts, and in that same document, they're talking about what's happening with debt and who owes who. No court, no money. When you have the courts, you have the money. We have the courts, and we have the money because we are the money. Period. And so April 26th, we're going to take yet another degree and another step and another elevation together in support of this new reset and the new economy. Yes, ooh, and yes, Justice Niall and Justice Frank in the chat. Justice Yezreel, that's powerful. He put in the chat, arise and judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit the nations. It's talking about courts and money. And in the biblioheliotext, you're not going to hear anything about a court and the money not be right in the next couple of scriptures or the same scripture. Even in the Declaration of Independence, since we're going there, let's just go. In the Declaration of Independence, they appealed to the judge of the earth, and what did they say next? We promise our fortunes, our fortunes, our lives, and something else. There was a third thing that they promised. We promise our, and I have to remember it because I've said it so many times, but it escapes me right now. But there's three things that they promised, and their fortunes was one of them. In appealing to the judge of the earth, which is us, the Moors.
Their sacred honor.
Yeah, no wonder I forgot. They have to have it. They have to have the honor. And yes, thank you, Justice. Their fortunes, their honor, and their lives. Their very lives. Their very lives, Moors. They pledged all of that to us, the judge of the earth.
Islam.
The supreme Islam.
And they said, in support of this declaration, we make this pledge.
Yes. 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 And here's the thing about that. They can't declare any independence without coming to us, and it wasn't even a declaration. That was them pleading with our court to save them from Britain.
Islam. And so you're saying the Bible said the same thing about giving their very lives, or?
It said whenever it mentions judges, it mentions money or inheritance.
Okay.
Justice Yezreel put one of them in the chat. Arise and judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
to your question, read what the Bible says about slaves and slavery. Slaves, obey your master. That's in the Bible.
Yeah. And okay, because when you said that, I was like, oh, okay, that's where they got that from. That's why they put that in the Declaration of Independence, because they got that from Scripture.
Yes. Read up in the bibliotext what we told them. Because see, originally, let's just put that out here. We gave them the bibliotext first, and whenever we spoke, we put it in red. That's where they get a red letter edition Bible from. They got that from us. Because they haven't thought of anything original. We gave them everything, and they hypothecated it.
Right, and they're following it, which kind of makes it easy for us if we just brush up on our history.
Yes. And then, don't throw the Bible away. Look at it. The prophet said don't throw it away. Look at it. Because it's going to tell you what we told them about their status and all of that. Read the story of Paul and Silas and how they declared their nationality in the Bible. They were thrown in prison under a false identity like they've been doing, we all been through that, where they pretended like they didn't know we were the heirs. Thrown in prison, and they said, wait a minute, we're Romans. Or either we're not Romans, we're Jews. It was one way or the other. Either we're Jews and we're not Romans, or we're Romans and we're not Jews. I'll have to go back and look at it. But they declared their nationality. And see, the only reason there's any confusion about that is because there's a hypothecated version of that story, and then there's the real story that really actually happened. And they let them out of jail saying, we're sorry, we didn't mean to do that. We didn't mean to do it. We didn't know who you were. We didn't know you were the heirs. Because, everybody in the Bible is us, including Yeshua. But the Bible says that. And Paul and Silas was talking about nationality. All Yeshua talked about was nationality.
Yes, and coming back into the government fold. All day.
Yes. And the blood. The blood. You got to have the blood.
Yes.
You must be covered under the blood.
Yes.
If you don't have it running through your veins. That's why we say, Sumus de sanctum unum, we are the holy ones. That's why we say that. That's one of the spells we put on our court actions. Sumus de sanctum unum, we are the holy ones. Because if you ain't under this blood, if it's not running through your veins, you better get under it. And they know that, though. They know that already. We just needed to know who we were, and that the blood is our blood that covers the sins of the whole earth.
And
how do we do that? Yes, go ahead, Empress.
And the scripture said that Christ came for the Jews. He came for his blood. He came for his people. He didn't come for the whole earth. He came for us and our redemption.
Yes.
Because we're the ones who are lost, and we're the ones who's supposed to be governing, and we were lost, and we went with other nations, and so we were supposed to come back. And when Peter asked, when will we go back to the kingdom? And the scripture says, seek the kingdom first and all its righteousness, and the rest will be added unto you, which to me, it says, learn law. We're not going back like that, not knowing law, not knowing how to govern. We're not doing that this time. You got to learn law. And then when you learn that, that's the kingdom, and the rest will be added to you, unto you. He said you're going to get it because you got to learn law. And so that's on an individual basis where if you don't learn it, nobody can put that in you. If you don't learn it, you don't see that kingdom. You don't see it. You don't get to inherit it. So it's like it's a different requirement to get in compared to when we first came out of Exodus. We got to get our minds right. Yeah. And that's where the kingdom is at. It's not physical.
There it is. And see, the thing is, it becomes physical through our courts. That's how you get all the physical manifestations on this dimension. It's through the court. The Moorish American consular court, the sovereign court, whatever courts are run by those who are the heirs.
Go. I swear to God. Oh, 4 actually.
He didn't say go over there this time?
Yeah, he said go over there, but there's only one over there. You remember the one that had like a weird slope?
So, I want to make sure I do that the right way. Islam Empress.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, so our courts are that's how everything else manifests. There has to be a court ruling. And the ancestors are taking us at a specific pace whereby when we become highly proficient in our court actions, then they say, okay, now we'll show you how to access this part, or access the buildings, or access this, or access that. So we just have to be patient to learn and be willing to be tested. Be willing to be tested in each and every area. How else will we know how to do it if we're not tested on it? And we won't be, the ancestors are not going to let us be hurt during the testing. They're going to take care of us. As long as we keep our spirits clear, they'll show us what to do. They'll speak straight through us. And as soon as we open our mouth, that ancestral information is coming straight out of it. And everything around us is going to do what it's supposed to be doing. Period. I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm telling you, we're not making this up. But, the Moors know that too. You all know that already. I'm just affirming what you already know in your spirit. So, we're going to be doing some demonstrations. Yes, Islam, Justice Danielle. Period. All day, every day. So clearing of our spirit is going to be the key also to effective court action. One of the levels of competence and one of the degrees that we get is emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? What is that? Does anyone know what emotional intelligence looks like? Think about that for a minute. What does emotional intelligence look like? Because that's a degree. There's several degrees. It's actually the basis for all degrees. It's the basis for competence in all the degrees. There it is in the chat. Yes, both of those. Justice Niel says being the all, and Justice C.F. Bay says not allowing emotions to get in the way of competence, period. There it is right there. That's the nail on the head right there. Hitting that nail right on the head. when we're in situations, for example, where policy enforcers are concerned and all of that, are we able to get a hold of our emotions and see the truth of the situation? The truth of the situation is that there's something the ancestors want to show us. So let's start looking for that. Let's listen. Let's declare who we are, and then look and listen and just watch and see, and then declare according to what we see. And let all of our actions be according to what we see. An example of that is, and I've mentioned this previously, when I was taken to the POW camp, or when I went to the POW camp, I noticed that there was a bench and a bar in each and every cell. I would not have noticed that if I had been so emotionally caught up in, oh, I shouldn't be here, I'm an heir, I'm so tired of them violating. No, that's the wrong place for energy to be. Calm down and look around and say, okay, ancestors, why am I here? I know you have me here to show me something, so I'm going to look for what you want to show me. And they're showing us stuff 24/7 in our testing. 24/7 we're being shown things in our testing. 24/7. I would not have known that, wait a minute, there's a reason why that bench is there and this bar is here. And even though be at peace, demonstrate with love and not angry. Yes, Justice Niall. If we don't focus on the hybrid and them stepping on toes and pushing folks and carrying on, if we keep our focus on why we're here and what we're here for and what we're here to learn, the ancestors will swoop through and just, I'm telling you, they fix everything that we need for them to fix. They keep us safe and they ensure that we're not put into a place that is too much for us. You know, they always say, back in the church, we used to say, oh, you know, God won't put anything on you that you can't bear. Well, let's look at that a different way. We will not call forth any test that we're not ready for, because we call forth our own test. When we demonstrate, we call forth our own test. And another way that we call forth our own test is by being scared of something. That which we fear, the ancestors will bring it forward so that we'll realize we didn't have anything to fear in the first place. One of the heirs was saying yesterday that some tests, if you work through your fear of it, you don't have to do that test. And she was right to a degree. We're going to be tested. We just get to choose which test we have. I was saying from the very beginning, you know, I said, ancestors, how do we get past their fake courts and fake policy enforcers and all of that? How do we get past that? Them pulling folks over and taking them to jail. How do we get past that? Guess what happened? I started getting pulled over immediately. And the ancestors let me be pulled over twice, and then the third time I went to the POW camp. That was in 2017. And I said, okay, I'm not mad at this. I just want to know, like, I had a big old question mark over my head, like, okay, ancestors, what am I here for? What is this all about? Show me. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to stand. Just show me why I'm here. And they said, okay, just say what you know. Use the tools you have. They said that the first time. Use the tools you have. So I knew about, you know, the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and I knew about the Constitution and the treaty and all of that. That was within a 5-month period. I knew how to proclaim that. I was doing court actions then and didn't realize that that's what I was doing. And that's why they had to back up, because I was doing court actions before I labeled it court action. And that was in their fake court. So they had to open the door. I'm out. And then the ancestors gave me a couple of years to learn and to do some demonstrations and to do some things. And then they said, okay, you ready for your next test? I said, yeah, I'm ready. Next test came much shorter by almost 3/4. The test was shorter this time, which to me is just fabulous. I loved it. So it's all about the court, period. And if there's one principle that I know must be a part of our message, it's our court. The other nations of the earth need to know, and they're going to know by watching us, because they're already watching us free ourselves from colonialism and capitalization. They're going to need to know, because see, it's the 3 C's. The 3 C's, because see, they talk about a holy C. I'm talking about the letter C. The 3 C's are colonialism, capitalism, and currency. Colonialism, capitalism, and currency. That was their holy C, quote unquote. And that's in black and all capital letters. That was it. Colonialism, capitalism, and currency. And now we already dealt with colonialism, and we're going to keep dealing with it competently. And dealing means doing away with it. It's a wrap. Colonialism, capitalism, we dealt with the capitalism. And now it's time to deal with the currency. And you could add a 4th C to that, which is the court, if you spell it the way they spell it. So when they talk about a holy C, and then you can add a 5th C, corporation. All of that together is their holy C. All of that together. And then you could add a 6th one, which is commerce. These are the C's that we are absolutely conquering. And that starts with CT. Colonialism, and I'm going to put it in the chat. Capitalism, currency, commerce, and corporation. That's 5. We can add a 6th one too. Court. There it is. Because you know 6 is one of our numbers. Hey, we see how to do it. We're actually living that. Colonialism, capitalism, currency, commerce, corporations, and courts. And the courts actually is first. Those are spells that were put on us. And now we know how to unspell them. And it's all in the words. Have you heard of the term war of the words? That's what all of that is. Period. It's a war of words. And that's what we've defeated, and we're going to continue defeating repeatedly. See, it's a wrap. We already won. Boy, I tell you, I want to read something to you that proves that we already won. Let me just pull it out, because I'll prove to you that we already won. In the circle 7, as divinely prepared by our prophet Noble Jew Ali, chapter 1, the creation and fall of man. Let me read to you how we've already won. I'm going to read the last 2 paragraphs. Actually, the last two and a half, almost 3. And I'm going. This is proof that we already won. All we're doing is walking it out. It says, and I want to thank Justice Jeremore for this yesterday, pointing this out yet again yesterday, because we've read it many times. We have it underlined in our Holy Quran of the more holy temple of science. It says, and these soul attributes became a body beautiful, a multitude of lessons man must learn upon the plane of soul. And here he tarries many ages until his lessons are all learned. Upon the boundary of the plane of soul, there he must overcome, yea, overcome them every one. Essences took on a final garb. The perfumes and odors and the true sensations and the all of love were clothed in flesh. And man was clothed in flesh. Perfected man must pass through all the ways of life, and so a carnal was full manifest, a nature that sprang forth from fleshy things. Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And thought must be developed by the exercise of strength. That's what our testing is about. It says, and so this carnal nature soon became a foe that man must fight, that he might be the strength of Allah made manifest. Let every living thing stand still and hear. And what is it that they want, that our prophet said all must hear? Man is the Lord of all. The plane of manifest or protoplast of mineral, of plant, of beast. But he given up his birthrights just to gratify his lower self. And here's how we won already. But man will regain his lost estate, his heritage. See, our prophet already prophesied and knew that we were going to get it all back. Period. It's a wrap. That's all the prophet is saying here. It's a wrap. It's done already. You just got to be tested on up to the win. You have to enforce the win. It says, but he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Yet he must suffer trials and temptations manifold. But let him know that cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun and spirit of the mighty Allah, who rule the solar stars, are his protectors and his guide, and they will lead to victory. Man will be fully saved, redeemed, perfected by the things he suffers on the plane of flesh. This place is for testing. So listen, do not let ego get in the way should a POW camp be involved in what you're doing. I have learned my greatest strength through the POW camp experiences. I'm just saying. Now, again, it ain't for everybody. That's not for everybody. But the times that I went, twice I've gone. Since I've been awake, twice. I know how strong we are now. I know how strong we are. I know they cannot move. I don't care if they got the keys. I don't care if they got tasers, guns, uniforms, and I don't care if it's a whole bunch of them. They can't move when we know who we are and we demonstrate with the right energy. And the right energy is just energy that's not war energy. I wasn't there to war with them. And I wasn't there to pronounce them, 30,000 years in jail. I wasn't there for all of that. I was there to see, ancestors, how powerful are we really? And they showed us. They showed us. We already won. It says it right here. Now, anybody talking about Prophet Noble Jew Ali, but you're fighting that you've already won, read this again. Anyone claiming that, oh, we can't do this and we can't do that, read this again. We already won. It's a wrap. It's done already. Chapter 1. Read it so that you will know in your own spirit that you won already. All we doing is being tested. So when you're being tested, don't be mad at the testing and don't be mad at the hybrid. They're a tool for the testing. The hybrids that come in on these calls, that's a tool for testing. Are we mad at them? They don't bother me. But there are some more who get so angry at that, and I'm thinking, that's a test for you. You're angry at that, but did you get what was being said in the meeting? Because, see, you'll miss the message in the meeting if you focus on them. It's all a test, heirs, and we already won. It's a wrap. That's why I say that. It's done. We're just walking it out. So let's just keep walking it out. And with that being said, yes, Justice Nael, say a little bit more about that, please, because that's so brilliant. That is brilliant. That's brilliant.
Islam.
Yeah.
I basically put that in there because it's like one of the old sayings that say, if you're scared, go to church. You know, we need to understand that we are in full control of ourselves. Nobody, unless that is our mother and our father, can tell us what to do. I yield.
Islam. And he put, ask Allah to guide you if you're scared. And where and who is Allah? That's in us and we're Allah. It says it right here. In the Holy Quran, it says that we're Allah. So who are we asking? We're asking ourselves. And then what do? We study and we tune into the ancestral connection and the ancestors speak. Period. If you ever, and see, I know some who say, well, I don't ever, I don't hear no ancestors talking. I'm just looking in the books and I'm studying and doing what I see. Try this. And this is a suggestion. It's just something to try. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and say, okay, ancestors whose blood I have running through my veins, what is it that you want me to know? Just try that. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask the ancestors, what is it? Show me you. Ask the ancestors to show you them. And I don't care if you feel like you've never heard from the spirit realm at all, they're gonna come through. They're coming through. I'm telling you, because you can't ask them without them answering. They're going to answer. All you got to do is get quiet and just wait. Take a deep breath and just wait. Ask the question and wait. There's not a question we can ask from our spirit that they're not going to answer. Because they're not even outside of us, they're in us. They hear the question and then they provide the answer because they're sitting right there. They never went anywhere. I will never leave you nor forsake you. That from the Biblioheliotheque is actually what our ancestors said to us. We will never leave you nor forsake you because we are you. Go look in the mirror if you want to see it, if you want to see the ancestors. Ooh, all in the chat, all the time, Justice Nael. Justice Yezreel, study to show yourself approved, yes. Study yourself to show, yes, to show yourself approved, Justice Yezreel. Justice Nael, all the time, Justice Amos, seek and ye shall find, knock and the door will be answered. Yes, yes. Yes. Justice Yazarel, the answer is us. Empress Denise, yes. Yes, yes, and more yes. That's a spell too. We say yes to all that the ancestors have for us and have sent us here to do. We say yes. We are Allah manifest in the flesh, Justice Frank, yes. All day, every day. It says it right here. Are there any, our chat is very wise, very wise, very wise. Are there any other questions, comments, or any other wisdom? Empress Shatali, what you said about the bibliotext, yes. Don't throw it away, y'all. Look at it with new eyes, with open eyes, with your third eye, which is really your first eye. Islam. Okay. So with that being said, we'll come to a pause place here. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural.
Peace and grand rising, heirs.
Grand rising, more.
Islam.
Islam, grand rising.
Yes, Islam. Islam.